generations to come.
Welcome to another edition of the TDN Writers Room podcast, presented by Keeneland. My name is Bill Finley. I'm a correspondent for the Thoroughbred Daily News and also co-host the Down the Stretch radio show on Sirius XM Radio with Dave Johnson.
How y'all doing? I'm Randy Moss, NBC Sports. Ready to roll here, even though we're not doing the Belmont.
Zoe Cabin with First Racing and First TV. I didn't die last week whitewater rafting. Almost, but not quite. We had a man overboard. We got some fabulous pictures, but it was a lot of fun.
Wow.
Okay. Anyway, so let's get into, obviously today's show is going to be all about the Belmont and the major races on the Friday and Saturday cards as well. NYRA goes every single year they put together since they've been doing these Belmont festivals, just a tremendous card. I think next to the Breeders' Cup is the second best day of racing in the sport. So why don't we do this, guys? Let's go down horse by horse, each one in the Belmont. Just give it a few words about them. Do you think they can win, have a chance, outside chance, no chance, etc.? And we'll do it in post-position order. So I'll go with Hill Road first, who won the Peter Pan last time out for Chad Brown. It was not a particularly good Peter Pan. He was third in the Tampa Bay Derby, beaten a long way. Nice enough horse. I don't think he has the class to handle this Group 1 company.
Now, the footnotes say stumble at the start. You have to look with a microscope to see a stumble. It was really just a really mild bobble. And he was way back early in the Peter Pan, as he always is, but he had a dream trip, saved ground, tipped out. As usual, didn't change leads coming down the wire and still managed to run down the horses in front, but in slow time. So I just don't think he's fast enough.
I don't believe he's fast enough either. He won the local prep. We'll see what he does at Saratoga. Honestly, if it was a mile and a half, he'd have a way better shot than he would do at a mile and a quarter. He will pick up the services of Arad Ortiz, which could help him perhaps stay a little bit closer. Arad doesn't like to be at the back of the pack. So it's going to be a bit of a squeeze for Hill Road.
Number 2 is the Derby winner, Sovereignty. I'll ask you both. Do you guys think he'll be the favorite or
yes.
Over? Okay, all right. Yeah, I agree. Favorite over journalism. What's not to like about this horse? He's been so consistent. He ran terrific race in the Kentucky Derby, trained by Belmont. It's kind of like, to me, I hate to just point out the obvious, but the obvious things about this horse lead me to believe that he's the one to beat. I know journalism is a nice horse and ran a tremendous race in the Preakness, but on Kentucky Derby Day, they met one another. I didn't think journalism had any serious excuses, and Sovereignty beat him. It's kind of A plus B equals C, but he'll be my pick in the race.
I'm checking the weather. Go ahead, Randy.
Rain.
I want to see how much rain.
I was told 1 to 2 inches from Friday to Sunday.
Yeah, 80% on Saturday. I mean, the weather's in his favor as well because he sluiced through that muddy track on Derby Day like he absolutely loved it. By Into Mischief, he's by Harlan's Holiday out of a Bernardini mare. No problem handling that whatsoever. He's come back and worked just fine. He's never going to blow your mind in the morning about how he works, but he worked solo and worked well enough in 48-4. So he is the horse to beat because he's fresh.
Yeah, I saw nothing in the running of the Kentucky Derby that would make me think that journalism should have beaten Sovereignty or Baeza should have beaten Sovereignty. Now, we'll talk about Baeza. He got in a little bit of traffic, but did I think, he would have won otherwise? No. And Sovereignty now has the advantage, I think, because skipped the Preakness, so again, he's fresh, and went straight to Saratoga. So he's been training at Saratoga for this race. If it was a mile and a half, maybe you might have a little bit of a question mark about Into Mischief at a mile and a half. But at a mile and a quarter, just like the Kentucky Derby, he should be the favorite.
Number 3 is Rodriguez, Bob Baffert's horse with Mike Smith aboard. Horses probably will go to the lead, though there's some other speed outside of him, primarily Crudo, the Bobby Flay horse. I'm so used to just knocking the Wood Memorial because it's just not producing any Kentucky Derby winners or horses that are coming close to the Derby. But it have a better record in the Belmont. I love Lone Speed, especially in the longer races, but I do think that the other horse, Crudo, will keep up with them early. And again, it's a question of quality. He won the Wood Memorial against, horses that just aren't of the class of a Belmont Stakes. And then, he couldn't handle journalism and Citizen Bull in the San Felipe and Robert B. Lewis. If he gets out front by 5 or 6 lengths and they go 6 furlongs and 115, he might just pull it off, but it's going to take that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't pay any attention to the Lewis or the San Felipe because I think those were circumstances. I think he's much better on the lead. And I think Mike Smith will try to put him on the lead as he did in the Wood Memorial. I was prepared to pick Rodriguez because he was going to be the lone speed in a paceless race. And then Todd Pletcher decided to enter Bobby Flay's Crudo, who's got as much and maybe even more speed than Rodriguez. I don't know. But at the very least, I think he'll keep Rodriguez from completely controlling soft early fractions like he would have otherwise. So I had to back off my my Rodriguez fetish there, Zoe.
And you never love altered plans because, he missed the Derby, sore foot. He was supposed to run in the Preakness, missed the Preakness, still not good enough to run in the Preakness. He's come back. He's worked okay. I mean, 24-2 is a good time, but watching him, he's just not sparkling for me. He's going to have to run the race of his life to beat the other ones anyway. So I'm probably going to take a back seat on Rodriguez as well. One thing about Mike Smith, though, he's good out of the gate and he will make it known that he is going to the lead. So go with him at your peril because that's his only shot to try and win this race is to put this horse on the lead. And everyone will know that. So you're either going to commit and put your horse at risk as well, or you're going to let Mike go.
Number 4 is Uncaged. Todd Pletcher and Windstar Farm and Rapoli Stable are the co-owners of this horse. I don't understand what this horse is doing in this race. You got Trounce in the Peter Pan. Other than, I maybe shouldn't be putting words into their mouths, but I think Mike Rapoli just loves the limelight and the action. And, he probably said to Todd, what do we have for the Belmont? And he'd say, well, we got this Uncaged horse. And you can see Rapoli saying, fine, run him. He'll be front and center. He'll be on TV a lot. And I like Mike Rapoli. I think he's really good for the game. But in this instance, he's running a horse, or he and Todd Pletcher is running a horse that has absolutely no chance.
Got 2 things in his favor, Bill. 2 for 2 over wet going and 1 for 1 at Saratoga.
Okay.
So you got horse for course and conditions for course as well. You're getting Louis Sayers aboard him for the first time. Anything can happen. It's not a full field.
Anything can happen. I don't know. I don't know if this can happen.
I'm just thinking of some pluses there. I hate dogging people's horses. Those are the pluses.
You can do a lot worse than Todd Pletcher in the Belmont. That's for sure. In a perfect world, Rapoli would have Grande for the Belmont Stakes, but obviously he's not 100% after what transpired at the Kentucky Derby, and then you didn't see him at the Preakness, so he's not really ready to run 1.25 miles even. I think in the Belmont Stakes. So I think Mike loves the Belmont Stakes. It's not just the limelight, the action. He loves the Belmont Stakes, and this is his chance this year, although not much of one.
All right. Number 5 is Crudo, the horse we were talking about that could be a pace contender and might make life a little bit difficult for Rodriguez. This is a horse that I think come Travers time or maybe become Breeders' Cup Classic time is going to be really good. I just don't think he's quite ready for this. This is another Pletcher horse owned by Bobby Flay and Jimmy Ventura. He's got the speed to make things interesting on the front end. He won the Sir Barton in a canter, 7.5 lengths. But Randy, the numbers are low, 84, 82. I just don't think he's ready for this. I'm a little bit surprised that they decided to go here. Why didn't they just point for something like the Haskell and see if they could get him a little more experience and maybe a race in between? But I think this horse has a future, but I don't think he's a winner in the Belmont.
Yeah, he's an analytics conundrum because when you watched the Sir Barton, I mean, he was very visually impressive. He wins by 7.5 lengths. The horse that he beat that finished second, Just a Fair Shake, had just won the Tessio and had run like an 82 or an 83 buyer in the Tessio. So we were all expecting the Sir Barton to come up like at about a 96 or a 97 fig. But the time was the time, 1 mile and a 16th and 144 flat. I mean, you know, you don't give performance ratings, you give speed figures based on the time, and the time came up disappointingly slow. So how do you view the Sir Barton? I mean, I view it really in my mind, handicapping, as more like a 95 or a 96 or a 97, just because of the way he looked visually. But I still don't think that's enough for him to win. And he's not going to be on a clear lead as he was, because he's got Rodriguez inside of him.
It's going to be a jockey's race for sure. And Johnny V, much like Mike Smith, those two are going to be on each other like white on rice. No problem for the distance for this son of Justify. And it's Saratoga. I think a lot of these horses probably wouldn't be in here if it was a Belmont. It's the Saratoga Belmont Stakes. And it was such a festival and so much fun and such a party last year. Everybody wants to be a part of it.
That's actually a very good point, Zoe. I didn't think of that. But Baeza, he'd be here if this race were being run at Sportsman's Park. He is a very talented horse, trained by John Sheriffs, and the horse that just looks to be getting better with each and every start. So let's go back to the Kentucky Derby, where he was third, beaten in length and 3/4 by Sovereignty and Journalism. I watched that race 3 times this morning. Maybe I should have watched it 5 or 6 times more. He got in a tiny bit of trouble, just a tiny bit. I don't think the trip cost him anything. And I think, just like we were talking about with Sovereignty and Journalism, I think Baeza was just the third best horse in the race. Now, they're not machines. He can run better. He can run worse. Journalism could have an off day. Sovereignty could have an off day. He's a very good horse, but I don't think he's as good as the big two.
He's finally a 3-year-old as well, because I think his birthday is May the 20th. So he's a late foal. I went by and saw him last week at Sheriff's Barn, and it looks like he's going through a growing spurt as well. He's gotten really, really tall, but my God, is he beautiful. He is just a beautiful specimen of a horse by McKinsey out of the big brown mare Puka. Of course, we know all about the brothers and Dornock and everybody. He's a major, major player in here, but he's going to have to be a little bit closer in the running of this race, which I don't see is going to be a problem. He had a very nice work over the training track under Pratt, a solo work on the 2nd of June, and he looks sharp coming in. Pratt knows, Sheriffs knows that he needs to be closer.
I didn't think he was a whole lot of trouble in the Kentucky Derby either, but he only finished a neck behind Journalism. So I think he was the second best horse in the Derby, not as good as Sovereignty. So then you look at, all right, what does that mean for the Belmont? All things being equal, and I want to preface with that, Sovereignty goes straight to Saratoga and has been training in Saratoga. Baeza is flown back to Santa Anita, and then from Santa Anita all the way across country to New York. So all things being equal, I think that would give Sovereignty an edge again coming back in the Belmont. But maybe all things aren't equal, because Baeza is a late foal, as Zoe pointed out, and he seems to be improving with every start. So perhaps, since his half-brother won the Belmont, that was 1.5 miles, though, Dornock, no, that was last year. That was 1.25 miles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was last year at 1.25 miles. Maybe Baeza has improved enough to defeat Sovereignty this time. But in my opinion, it's going to come down to those two.
And one thing you can't underestimate is being in your own stall, like Sovereignty has been in his own stall. Baeza was in his own stall, not missed a day of training, and got some sunshine on his back. If you go to Sheriff's Barn, you're rarely going to find that horse in the stall. The other day I showed up and he was outside standing in the sunshine. And I'm like, John, what are you doing to his legs? And he was just feeling the horse's pulse on his legs. He was stood out there for like 20 minutes, rubbing his legs, and like the stuff that John Sheriffs does with his horses is amazing. He's like, put your hand here, and it's supposed to beat like this. And he's so old school and new school. He has every technology known to man, yet he's an old school trainer. Every gadget, every heartbeat. He's got like 6 Apple Watches. Every tech thing you can put on a horse, John has. He's truly amazing. Now, did he just turn 80? He just turned 80 years old. At 80 years old, how tech savvy and old school he is.
At the Kentucky Derby, when I was talking to him before Baeza got in, I had a phone that I used for communication, and I had another old iPhone that I used to record conversations. And he looked at me like I had 3 eyes. He said, no, you're doing it all wrong. He was telling me about the apps I needed to download and what I needed to do. He was, this is the way you need to do it. I'm telling you.
Yeah. He's amazing.
He's techie.
Yeah, he really is.
All right. So can Baeza do it for the techie trainer, John Sheriffs? We'll certainly find out. Number 7 is journalism. And matter of fact, he's the morning line favorite. Randy, I know I'm going to ask you this. Do you think that's not that it really means anything in the long run, but you don't think he will be the favorite? And Zoe, you don't either?
No. He shouldn't be.
I have great respect for the line maker in Naira, but I do not, in this case, as impressive as he looked in running down Gosger to win the Preakness, I still don't think the journalism will be the favorite in this spot.
I would agree.
No, and nor should he be. We said this a couple of weeks ago, and I'll say it again. If he was mine, I wouldn't be running him in the Belmont. But, all honesty, if he was mine, I probably wouldn't have run him in the Preakness either. So, yeah, I would have missed that train. I think I've quoted this stat as well, which just goes to show you what journalism is up against. Since 2002, if you go back to War Emblem running in all 3 races and going to his nose at the start of the Belmont, there have been 48 horses that have just run in the Preakness and then the Belmont. Don't worry about the Kentucky Derby, which is another factor in this. Just Preakness Belmont. Out of those 48 horses, including American Pharaoh and Justify, 41 of the 48 had a worse finish position in the Belmont than they did in the Preakness. That's a staggering number. That's 85%. And if you throw out Pharaoh and Justify as complete outliers, it goes up to almost 90%. And that doesn't even consider the Kentucky Derby for a 3rd race in 5 weeks. So to me, I'm expecting journalism to regress in this spot. And maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Maybe he's old school. But that's why I think it comes down to Sovereignty and Baeza.
He's a good horse. His work looked good. 47-2, huge gallop out. I thought maybe too big a gallop out. For him the other day, went out in 112, something ridiculous. Umby flew there to work him. I would have liked to have seen Umby grab a hold of the reins and kind of reel him in a little bit, but the reins were flopping and he just looked like a happy horse getting over the track. He's one of the few that actually worked over the main track and not the training track. So coming in, we've said time and time again that a good horse can fool you into thinking they're doing great. And if any horse is going to fool any trainer, it's going to be journalism. And I hope I'm wrong. He looks good coming in. He's looked good training, and I'm wishing them the best luck. It would be really cool to see him win it. I'm definitely rooting for journalism.
Bill, what's your opinion in the whole journalism, Sovereignty, Baeza?
I think they'll run one. Honestly, I think they're going to run 1, 2, 3 in the exact same order they did in the Derby. Now that'll never happen, but that's what I could see happening. And journalism, his run in the final 16th of a mile of the Preakness was just electrifying.
Right.
I mean, just something you don't see horses do. But he was running down Gosger, which Gosger is not exactly Sovereignty and Baeza. So, you have to take that into account. But he's a heck of a horse. But he's got to prove me he's better than Sovereignty.
Do you want to see something really cool? Now, I've had this photo forever, and Zoe Metz just texted me and she's like, you know who this is? You see that picture right there?
Is that you?
That's me with kissing a horse. We did a piece with XBTV for like the therapies and the salt spa and the water chamber. That's Moppetism.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Wow.
Damn.
Yeah, we
about
had her in
that?
the water spot. I've got a bunch of pictures. Hold on.
Journalism's dam.
Yeah, here she is. She was so sweet. She was one of my favorites, and we picked her to do this feature. And that's her.
Oh,
Yeah, isn't that cool? So I'm like, oh God, maybe he's going to win now because that just popped up today.
yeah.
Awesome.
And she was not only sweet, she could run.
Yeah, exactly. Very cool.
All right. Lastly is Heart of Honor, and pretty soon you're going to hear from Jamie Osborne, his trainer. Quite an entertaining Gainesway Guest of the Week segment that we have for you, so stay tuned for that. It's a great story. I love the father-daughter thing. He explained to us, I'm getting ahead of ourselves, but the whole idea of buying a European buying dirt horses because he thinks they can do well in the UAE on the dirt there. So this is a European-based horse that has never run on the grass in his entire life. The horse didn't break well in the Preakness, but again, it was just a kind of a minor thing. I don't think it cost him more than a length or two. He seems like a good guy, and it's really cool that he rides his daughter, but he's going to have to get a lot of improvement out of this horse to make him go to the winner's circle.
Looks like there's going to be a little bit of pace up front. So I can't fault the ride that Saffie gave him in the Preakness Stakes, and she's going to have to ride every step of the way again. He said that they've been doing some gate work with him, so hopefully we'll see him just a little bit sharper than he was. Hopefully he got a little bit more used to the kickback because he ate a half of the racetrack during the Preakness. But he'll come running late and pick up some pieces.
Really an inspired strategy to buy these dirt horses to run in Dubai over the winter because they love running in Dubai. And if you buy grass horses, you've got to run against Godolphin and Charlie Appleby in Dubai, which is almost impossible to do any good against Birder's Row like that. Godolphin's best dirt horses are in America, and they ship over maybe for the Dubai World Cup or some of the other major races like that. So he can compete against horses other than Godolphin in Dubai with dirt horses. And Heart of Honor has really started that strategy off on the right foot. But he's in a pretty tough spot, obviously, in the Belmont.
So let's pin everybody down. I'm Sovereignty. Randy, you're Sovereignty?
Sovereignty Baeza Exacta, yes.
Zoe?
Ditto.
Okay, so you both like the Sovereignty Baeza Exacta.
I might even put Baeza on top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'll go
Baeza
Sovereignty.
What's that, Zoe?
I'll go Baeza Sovereignty Journalism.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by Keeneland. It was a stellar weekend for Keeneland sales graduates who won a quartet of Grade 3 races across North America. Nysos won the Triple Bend at Santa Anita. Fionn won the Regret Stakes at Churchill. And up at Woodbine, Caitlin Her Greatness took the Belmahone Stakes, while Ms. Tart won the Royal North Stakes. That's a mix of January, November, and of course, September graduates. Make plans to attend this year's September sale from September the 8th through the 20th.
It all comes down to this.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
The moment that defines the year, when the world's most influential buyers gather, and every decision, every bid, every opportunity shapes the future. At a marketplace that brings the thoroughbred world together, and where futures are forged, because every moment matters. At the World's Yearling Sale, Keeneland, September.
The fastest horse of the week is brought to you by Constitution, one of the fast sires at Windstar Farm. No convention is necessary to determine that Constitution is a very elite stallion. He was number 5 on the general sire list in North America. Last year, he's number 6 right now, thanks to fast horses like Pin Up Betty, who won Sunday's Grade 3 Mint Julep Stakes at Churchill Downs in a stakes record 140.55 for the mile and a 16th on grass. Windstar congratulates the Wyckoff families, 3 Diamonds Farm, the owner and breeder of Pin Up Betty, and obviously congratulations to Constitution, who stands at Windstar for a fee of $110,000. Fastest horse of the week, no surprise. The aforementioned Nisos, that 5.5 length winner of the Triple Bend at 1-5 odds. That win earned him a career high buyer speed figure of 108. Nisos was coming off the only loss of his career in the Churchill Downs Stakes on the Kentucky Derby undercard, but that loss carries a giant asterisk. It was a tough field. It was his first race in 15 months, right? He had a wide trip. He was running on a sloppy track for the first time and taking kickback for the first time, and still lost by only a neck to mind frame. Nisos is now 4 for 5 lifetime. Those 4 wins have come by an average margin of 8 lengths. And we're a long way out, but Nisos has to be considered one of the early favorites for the Breeders' Cup Sprint.
Welcome in now the Gainesway guest of the week, and it's trainer Saffie Osborne, who we are talking to from his office in the UK. But on Saturday afternoon, he's running Heart of Honor in the Belmont Stakes. Also ran the horse in the Preakness. Saffie, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, Saffie, the first thing I wanted to ask you about, it's interesting that a European trainer would buy a horse like this. Not particularly well bred, doesn't have an ounce of turf in his breeding. But you saw him as a dirt horse, but you're, of course, are training in Europe. So what was the thinking behind picking this horse up at the sales?
The motivation for buying him was that we were taking squads of horses to the Middle East for the winter, and just banging our head up against Charlie Appleby. So 60% of the racing in Meydan in the winter in Dubai is dirt racing. So we were really only able to take horses for the 40%. And Godolphin are so strong out there, they're really tough to beat. Now, we have had success there, but a good example this year on the turf, I think we had 7 seconds to Charlie. So it can be a little bit frustrating. So we thought, why don't we try something different, and see if training a dirt horse is possible. So we bought a handful, and luckily, I mean, I can only do this with the backing of, I can convince somebody that's a good idea. And Jim and Claire Bryce, who very much enjoyed being in Dubai for the winter, they liked the idea. So Heart of Honor was bought not with the American Triple Crown in mind. He was bought to entertain them in Dubai during the winter on the dirt. And thankfully he did.
Second in the Albastakaya, second beaten in a photo in the UAE Derby. So when we chatted with you at the Preakness, prior to the Preakness, you pointed out that one of the challenges in training Heart of Honor is his behavior on race day once he leaves the barn, as you pointed out. How was it on Preakness day? And what did you think about his race in the Preakness?
Well, it was all going smoothly. The saddling process was good, and sometimes that can be a challenge. And I thought it was going quite well until he decided that he rather fancied his pony. And I'm afraid that it went horribly wrong from that point. There was a moment where I think he did climb up on his pony. So I'm not sure his mind was completely in the right place when he was loaded into the gate. And consequently, the gate was dreadful. I mean, it made us look very European, didn't it? You know, he was very slow away, very slow into stride. And then he faced a sandstorm like he'd never faced before. And I'm afraid he just didn't go. So it wasn't until Saff was able to wheel him out down the straight and get a bit of clear air that he actually raised a gallop. And I thought under the circumstances, he did quite well to finish 5th. It was never our intention to be that far back. And it was a set of circumstances really brought about by the stalls, by the gate. So that obviously has been a focus of our attention since Pimlico to try and lessen the chances of the same thing happening again.
That being said, I thought Saffie rode him brilliantly. She must have been absolutely bloody knackered afterwards because she rode him for a mile and a half. She rode him every single step of the way. I actually just watched the race back, and it was remarkable that he even managed to finish fifth as far as I'm concerned. Talking of the gate, what have you done to remedy the gate? Has he been there every day? Are you putting his feed tub in there? How are we getting him out of the gate for Belmont Saturday?
Putting his feet up. Are you allowed to say knackered on the TDN podcast? That'd be bleeped out on the
Nobody
blog.
knows what it means.
Oh, really? Very, very British. No, so Jimmy McCarthy, who has been at his side both in Dubai and out here, knows him pretty well. And he's been in and out of the gate a lot in Saratoga. He was in there this morning. And just getting him to relax with it. And the footage that I've seen of him doing it, it looks like it's going quite well. We did a lot of work with him before the UAE Derby. We weren't just able to do that into the Preakness because most of the days leading up to the Preakness, he was either on an aeroplane or in a lorry. So, it wasn't the perfect prep. But now that he's had sort of the guts of 3 weeks in Saratoga, we've been able to do what we want. So I think the chance of it being as horrible as it was in Pimlico, I think is slim. Look, he's never going to be first out the gate, but as long as he doesn't give himself such a big disadvantage this time, and he's able to just sort of sit a little bit closer, then he's got a chance of showing what he's capable of. I never felt in the Preakness that he really did that.
Jamie, you mentioned, Zoe mentions the Saffie, who of course is your daughter, who's been riding the horse. And how special is that as a father and as a horse trainer to enjoy this experience with your own flesh and blood?
It's dreadful. I mean, she's always been a very difficult child. And she's now a difficult employee. No, I mean, it is good. It is good. It's a whole different dimension to what I'm doing. Imagine if she was just an ordinary rider and I'd have to sack her for the good of my business. That wouldn't go down very well, would it? But no, thankfully she can ride. And as Zoe just said, the ride in the Preakness was just one of perseverance and strength. She doesn't lack strength, this child. She's like a little weightlifter. It's quite extraordinary. She won the genetic lottery, really, because she's got 3 elder brothers that, believe it or not, are 6'4", 6'3", and 6'2", and she's 5'2". So as far as pursuing this career is concerned, she got lucky. And look, she is very strong. And yeah, I do enjoy working with her. It has its moments, but it's different. And, if you take away the fact that she's my daughter, she does a great job for us. And look, she rides for a lot of different people now. And I'm not saying that every winner doesn't give her enormous pleasure, but I think she gets extra pleasure from one of ours. She knows how hard I've had to struggle through the last 20 years. And, so I think it's an added buzz for us both when we're successful together. And yes, to be out here doing this on your stage, it's quite an extraordinary thing to do, isn't it? I mean, Saffie and I never thought we'd be doing this. So it's great fun. It is good fun. And, she lacks experience on the dirt, but she can ride. She's not stupid and she knows the horse very well. There were those before the Preakness that were wondering why I didn't just put an American rider on. Well, as far as we were concerned and as far as Jim and Claire are concerned, they've known Saffie. They're friends of ours. They've known Saffie. They've seen her grow up. It would be a very empty feeling for us if we were doing it without her. it was never crossed Jim and Claire's mind not to have her on board. So, we were never going to use an American rider. We're a little team together, a little family operation, and that's how it'll stay.
When I was talking to Saffie before the Preakness, she detailed some of the injuries that she's already suffered as a jockey, including one spill that sounded horrific, all the injuries that she's had. So you've seen firsthand not just her riding ability, but her toughness as well.
I'm sure she was exaggerating. Oh, look, she's tough. I've no doubt. Listen, yeah, our mother's tough. It's in the pedigree, She's very competitive, and she's hardy. She's grown up with 3 elder brothers. Is it nature or nurture? She won't back down. You won't try arguing with her. It's not easy.
Jamie, can you talk to us about the experience that you had at the Preakness from the beginning of the week? The alibi breakfast was something perhaps you weren't ready for because you got a bit of a roasting there. And you talk about the roasting that you got.
Courtesy of Wayne Lucas, yeah.
Yeah, well, you could have warned me. I had to go and meet a state vet that morning. So I asked, I can't remember who it was, I asked if I could go first. So I didn't actually realize quite what that breakfast was. So I was expecting a nice, friendly international welcome from the coach and Rob Baffert. But I certainly didn't get it. But don't worry. I can take it.
And for those that weren't there at the alibi breakfast, I wasn't there. I just saw the cliff notes. What did Coach say to you about riding your daughter?
He said, I was sort of a little bit in awe of being there with the great D. Wayne. And the first thing he suggested was that I should just go home. It's a complete waste of time. And then he asked me whether this must be some sort of publicity stunt. So I slightly got him back because he then said, "How old is your daughter?" I said, "She's 23. How long has she been riding?" I said, 2 weeks. So, and then I had to go and see the state vet. So it was all over.
I guess when you're 89 years old, you feel like you can get away with saying some things that maybe you couldn't in your youth.
Listen, I realized, look, I took it in the best possible taste. I realize now what that breakfast was about. And I think I felt a little bit sorry for Mr. Lucas because somebody put the clip onto Twitter or X and people sort of thought he was just being a bit ignorant. But actually, in the context of the whole thing, it was funny. So don't worry, I've got a sense of humor. I just wish I'd realized quite what the breakfast was about because I would have been a bit more ready for him. He caught me off guard.
Wayne, what kind of advice do you have for Jamie?
Stay at home. You can't ship a horse. I mean, come on, let's be realistic. You can't ship him halfway.
Your daughter's riding the horse, right?
Yeah,
well, that's great.
halfway across the world.
Hey.
Put your daughter on it. I mean, it's a publicity stunt.
Crap, they don't serve crab cakes. I don't think.
There's no validity at all. Draw a line through that one.
Wayne, what kind of advice are you going to tell Jamie to tell his daughter on race day?
How old's your daughter?
23.
23? How long she been riding?
A couple of weeks.
Couple of weeks? Good.
4 weeks.
Jamie, you were a prolific winner over the jumps as a jockey. 96 to 97, you had 131 winners. You were second in the standings. Why then, when you retired, did you decide to train flat horses instead of jumpers?
Because I don't like the English winters. the worst thing about being a jump jockey is it happens in the winter. England is a horrible place in the winter. The days are very short and it's always raining and cold. That's why Zoe lives with you. No, that's not really the reason. But it is a factor. I don't know. There were lots of reasons at the time. I didn't really want to be a trainer at all until retirement was really looming. And I had to face reality that the first career was over or about to be over. And I had all sorts of ideas when I was writing about what I would do and wouldn't do. And then I just felt I wasn't kind of ready to leave the sport. And I'd done nothing else all my life. I'd been in it since I left school at 17. And I thought, well, maybe it's a bit silly trying to go and earn a living elsewhere when the only thing I know is this sport. At the time, I was a little bit stale with the jump racing, maybe. So I thought I'd just make life even harder and switch over to flat racing and try and become a flat trainer. And I mean, the first year was a total disaster. I started with quite a big string for a first season trainer and I couldn't train a winner. Nearly sent myself bankrupt. And it was, oh my God, it was awful. I wouldn't want to relive that year. And then luckily it picked up. We had a Royal Ascot winning 2-year-old in the second year, and then we had a champion 2-year-old in the third year. So it got going. But, it was a baptism of fire.
It got going to the extent that, for those that don't know this, you had a lot of success bringing over Toast of New York to the United States, who damn near won the Breeders' Cup Classic, got beat by only a couple of inches in a race that he probably should have won in hindsight. So now with Heart of Honor.
Now you tell me.
So now with Heart of Honor, you're based in the UK. You buy a horse with a dirt pedigree to run in Dubai over the winter, which is why you're in the United States now for the Triple Crown. What do you do with him for the rest of the year? Do you circle the Breeders' Cup on your calendar? What happens next?
Look, I don't think so, because nothing has really changed as far as Jim and Claire are concerned. He is their winter entertainment. And I think if I were to look, let's see how we get on Saturday. Is he good enough for a Breeders' Cup Classic and all that sort of thing? You've got to question that. But if you were to aim in that direction, I'd have to have him so ready there for the beginning of November. Could I then have him as ready? Would that affect his chance in the winter of being at his best, maybe for a Saudi Cup or a Dubai World Cup? And realistically, I think that needs to be my priority. This horse went to Dubai in November. He lived there for 5 months. He came back. He didn't have long back here at home before he shipped to Baltimore. So I would imagine, his stage of his life, he's had a fair few runs and he's experienced more than most horses have, for a horse of his age. And I would say a decent length of a break now when he comes back. And then we'll work back from his Middle Eastern season. And my plan would be to take him to Dubai in November again, give him a prep run or two there at Meydan before hopefully getting a slot into the Saudi Cup. $20 million. It's quite attractive. And look, I would love to come back and have another go at a Breeders' Cup Classic. And maybe, hopefully, one day we might have a horse good enough. I'm not sure it's this horse. And who knows, as a 4-year-old, maybe he's going to progress and maybe it's something we can consider as a 4-year-old. And I think as a 4-year-old, he may be easier to give a US campaign to in the summer and then have a Middle Eastern campaign in the winter. I think as a 3-year-old, I think that's a really tough ask. And as I say, he had 5 runs in Dubai. This is going to be his 7th run on Saturday in a relatively short space of time. We don't need to take him for granted. And I think if we're going to have any longevity with him, and he is going to be able to be a winter sport provider for Jim and Claire for the next couple of years, then I think a break is going to be what's needed.
Well, that was entertaining, to say the least, especially those stories about Wayne Lukas. Jamie, you are a delight. Thank you for being on the TDN Writers Room podcast. Best of luck with Heart of Honor, where you'll go to the Belmont Stakes along with your daughter, Saffie Osborne, will be riding. Again, wishing best of luck, and thanks so much for being with us today.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Our guest of the week, Jamie Osborne, was brought to you by Gainesway, the home of Tappet, one of the most influential and breed-shaping stallions of the past half century. And of course, this is a good week to bring Tappet into any conversation. He's the sire of 4 Belmont Stakes winners: Tonalist in 2014, Creator and Taprit back-to-back in 2016 and 17, and Essential Quality in 2021. Tappet's Belmont Stakes record ties him with one other stallion, the legendary Lexington, who sired his 4th and final Belmont winner 147 years ago in 1878. So by strict definition, Tappet may not be one of a kind, but one out of every 147 years is not too bad. Tappet has also sired 29 other Grade 1 winners, and he stands at Gainesway for $185,000. Gainesway, power, passion, performance.
On this week's edition of First Things First, I caught up with George Wolfe Award winner Kendrick Carmouche.
You know it, Zoe.
Here he is, stopping for selfies.
Yeah, Louisiana in the house all the time.
And everything.
Yeah.
You're looking very Californian with your shades on.
You think so? You think I belong in Hollywood? I love the Big Apple, it didn't treat me good. I don't have the full apple, but I got a half an apple, which is good because you still get the seeds and you can plant more to get more,
You also have a George Wolfe Award, and I've known you an awful long time.
Long time, Zoe.
A long
But we
time.
young.
Yeah, of course we are.
Yeah.
We're very, very young. So what does it feel like? Give me the essence of being a George Wolfe Award winner.
It's a pure joy, because if you really do think about how much you've been around so many racetracks, you met so many jockeys, and they voted for you, it's like winning the Emmy Award of all awards, I think every jockey would want this award to feel good about themselves, but it's just amazing. I thought the respect that I have given everybody throughout my career and throughout my life, I think that's where I'm at right now in my career, it's just another step.
Who's the number one person or the people that helped you along the way, Kendrick?
Oh man, I saved my family, I got a tight circle, my wife and my kids, they supported me, my in-laws, my mom, my dad, it's a lot of love, they kept fighting with me when I was down, encouraging words and always keep God with you, You don't have to go to his house to believe in him. It's all inside of you, and that's the way I see things in life, and that's the way I wrote.
4,000 winners earlier in the year, which is a fantastic achievement. Unfortunately, your father passed away. Do you feel like he's up there watching you right now in every moment?
I feel like he's with me every moment. I feel like he might be up there, but he's with me at every moment. Every time I set myself on the horse, I feel like he's telling me to do these things out there now, and I think that's why you see me doing even better in such a sport that he loved and that I love, that he passed on to me. So he was the best, man. I mean, he was a quiet guy, but he showed his talent on the racetrack in Louisiana and wherever he shipped, and I think I'm a prime example of him.
Well done, Kendrick. Absolutely brilliant. Now, I hear you wouldn't let your wife go shopping on Rodeo Drive. You told her just to keep driving.
Yes, I did tell her that, because why? Once I saw the buildings, I didn't feel like my credit card could have gone in those buildings, So maybe I should have came with a Visa card instead of a debit card, But, I'm a regroup. We're going to go to Delaware in a tax-free state, and she can have my credit card.
Hold on, mate.
Many thanks to Kendrick, a guy who always has a smile on his face. If you don't see him smiling, in fact, I don't think it's possible not to see him smiling. So big thanks to Kendrick from that. Just a reminder that racing does continue at Santa Anita Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Join us to watch the Belmont Stakes on Saturday. You can watch and wager there. Gates will be opening at 7:30 a.m. on Saturday. And come and watch and drink some wine as we have wine, place, and show on Saturday. Go to santanita.com for more details.
Well, let's not forget, it's not just the Belmont Stakes on Saturday at Saratoga. Both on Friday and Saturday, it is a card to just marvel over. I mean, one Grade 1 race after another. Some of the biggest stars in racing will be out on the racetrack, and it's, like they say, worth the price of admission. I think most people would agree the second best race, or the second most important race on the card, is what you'd expect, because it usually is the Met Mile. And there's not a big field, but it is absolutely loaded with star power. And I'm trying to get to that page in my racing form, but Fierceness is going to be one of the horses in there that absolutely you have to respect, as you have to with White Barrio. Just a bunch of real good horses in there. I don't really like that funky start that they have, that kind of half turn thing. But Randy, who do you like in the Met Mile?
Okay, Fierceness is even money. And, I respect the heck out of Fierceness. But what concerns me about Fierceness at even money is, in this particular race, his inside draw. Because when you look at the horses that are going to be stacked up to his outside, you've got White Barrio, if he's got enough speed, Just a Touch, Raging Torrent. Yeah, there's a possibility that Fierceness could get a rail pocket trip, which, looking back at his past performances, I'm not sure he's ever had. He's always been positioned to the outside, stalking trips because of his tactical speed. And unless Johnny can get him out, John Velasquez, he might be in a rail pocket trip here. And at even money, I think it's worth taking a shot against, especially at a one-turn mile. I think he's a little better at longer distances, I would think. Maybe I'm wrong. I'll take Raging Torrent at a better price at 5-1. I think he'll be able to control the pace, just like he did in the Godolphin Mile. He won the Malibu before that. I'll go against the even money favorite just for that reason only.
And it's not really a one-turn mile. It's kind of a funky two-turn mile. Yeah. Because they start off in the Wilson chute. When they first built the chute, I was like, the one hole really at a disadvantage, because you think you might get cut off quickly going into that turn. But it's proved to be kind of absolutely fine. Fierceness could not be training any better whatsoever. Does he have any experience around kind of one turn or two turn as it is here? He broke his maiden at Saratoga going 6 furlongs, so that's good enough to me. He is a horse to beat in here. I kind of wish Nysos was here. Why did Nysos run at Santa Anita last weekend? He should be running here, and he'd be first or second choice. Second choice probably behind Fierceness, in my opinion. Fierceness is the horse to beat. I don't care about him being inside. He's just doing so well.
And I will say one more quick thing, since this is such a big race. In my opinion, White Barrio's 6-length win over Locked and Skippy Longstocking in the Pegasus World Cup was just about as good as any race Fierceness has ever run. Mm-hmm. So that just adds to the marquee value of this particular matchup. And we haven't even talked about Just a Touch and the way he's been running against lesser competition. What a race.
All right, we'll continue on with another Grade 1, which is the Woody Stevens 7 furlongs.
Hold on. I had one thing to add just quickly about White Barrio. Did we ever think, because the Met Mile is a stallion maker, right? Mm-hmm. Did we ever think we'd be talking about a horse 2 years later who won the Met Mile? So White Barrio won it in 2023, and here we are in 2025. He's still running. That's probably never going to happen again, right?
Do you want to breed to a son of race day? That's the question.
I don't know. Just throwing that out there.
Okay. All right. The Woody Stevens, as I said, comes up next. 7 furlongs on the main track for 3-year-olds. This is a really good race. I'll say this: I don't like Citizen Bull. I know he got caught up in a speed duel in the Derby. I like the jockey change from Martin Garcia to Mike Smith, but this doesn't looks to me like this horse is just not on his game, on his toes right now. I guess I'll go with Colloquial, and I'm not really sure about this, but the 106 Beyer speed figure, and when he broke his maiden, was fantastic. He came back and ran quite a bit slower in the Lafayette Stakes, where he did win. So he's won 2 straight, including the maiden win, where he got a huge Beyer number 106. So even though the races were 3 months apart or 2 months apart, his regression in the Lafayette, I'll chalk it up to perhaps bouncing. George Weaver is one of the most underrated trainers in the business. I think he'll have this guy ready to go.
I like Colloquial in here as well, but I'm still on Chance McPatrick. I like him with the blinkers off, and maybe he is a one-turn sprinter after all. They tried and tried and tried, and he was just too slow. I believe going one turn we'll see a better version of Chance McPatrick, which Randy will not agree with me whatsoever.
I've already given you this.
I know. I thought that was side eye for a minute, but it's side head.
We're going to totally jinx Colloquial.
Really.
I can go through here, and these are all really nice horses, right? I mean, I wish Big Truz had an outside post. I loved his last race against Patch Adams, but anyway. But you can find something to pick at with all these horses. If the track is sloppy, if the weather forecast holds, and it rains that much at Saratoga, and the track is sloppy like it was on Derby Day, Macho Music is going to be awfully tough to beat. And he's on the line at 8-1. Now, he's got even more speed to deal with Gunmetal from his outside, who is a tremendously fast horse that might compromise him. But at 8-1, that's something to keep in mind. But Colloquial has shown in that maiden race, that 106, where he could stalk 5th, 3 lengths off the pace, and then just blew him away. So because of that and the 6-1 price on the morning line, I'll line up with you guys and take Colloquial.
All right. The last of the grade ones on Saturday, the Resorts World Casino Manhattan, going a mile and 3/16 on the turf. This could be a kind of a feel-good story. As we all know, Christophe Clement, somebody that was just thought of so highly in the racing industry, passed away last week, and the stable's now being run by his son, Miguel, who has 2 very good horses in here, Deterministic and Farbridge. Matter of fact, I think it's a 2-horse race between Farbridge and Spirit of St. Louis. It would be, if you'd have to be really kind of a, grumpy, non-sentimental guy if you wouldn't be happy that he would win this race. I am picking Farbridge. I think he's been running very consistently and facing some pretty good horses. Spirit of St. Louis, I can't even put my finger on it. I guess maybe because he's a New York bred, which isn't fair. But, I remember this horse running in 100 New York bred races, and all of a sudden now we're talking about him being one of the best turf horses in the country. So I am going to go with Miguel Clement. The LSU stables, apparently no one in the stable went to LSU, and Farbridge is my pick.
Larry Sarf University, LSU.
Yeah.
Look, let me just get this right out there. I'm pulling for Miguel. He's such a nice guy, and it would be a fantastic story for the whole family, for Miguel. So I hope one of these 2 horses wins. I can't back them. Farbridge's recent wins, 1.5 miles, 1.5 miles, 1.5 miles, 1 3/8. And as far as Deterministic goes, he looked very good coming home to win by 4.5 on an extremely firm turf course. He got away with an opening quarter in 24.19, just walking on the front end with a clear lead in a completely paceless race. And so I'm going to downgrade Deterministic's win just a little bit because of that. Since it looks like the turf course is going to be soft, good, at least. Spirit of St. Louis, he just keeps winning. And he won on a good course last time at Churchill Downs. I don't like 5-2, but to me, he's still the horse to beat.
I'll take 12-1 on Carson's Run all day long. and twice on Saturday. The son of Cupid, he likes a good bit of give in the turf course. You can say he probably needed that last race. We've not seen him since the Hollywood Derby, which he ran out here at Del Mar. He loves a little bit of give in the ground. It's great connections. We're all rooting for Miguel to win a grade 1 on, just a couple of weeks after his father passing.
When Deterministic set that easy first quarter pace in the Fort Marcy, who was last? Carson Run.
Exactly.
The pace really hurt him in that spot.
And he's going to get some give in the ground.
Yeah.
I like him in there. How about the other grade 1, the Jaipur, race number 9?
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped over that. Zoe, give me your opinion.
I've got to find it first. Hold on. I'm still stuck on it endlessly.
Well, I'll just set you up. I mean, you've got 3 wins in a row for Think Big, who's going to be the favorite. He's 6-5 in the morning line. Godolphin. I was going to try to take a shot against him because 3 of those recent wins, he's won 4 of his last 5, were on good courses. So I thought maybe on a firm course at Saratoga, he might be one to take a shot against, but it's probably not going to be a firm course at Saratoga. So he's clearly the horse to beat. Although AG Bullet, if she handles the going, what do you think, Zoe?
I like Think Big in there. I don't know how he got up to win at Churchill Downs. I never thought he was going to get there ever did I watched that over and over again. I never thought he was going to get there, but he got there. He handles the turf course. Ben Curtis rides him just brilliantly. AG Bullet is better on the top of the ground, but she can handle a softer turf course. She got brutalized in the Unbridled Sydney. Absolutely brutalized. Draw a line through that. She is way better than that. She is a must-use.
And a jockey change to Flavian Pratt in this spot as well. The TDN Writers Room brought to you by the Pennsylvania Horse Breeders Association. The first PA-bred yearling show is on the calendar for Saturday, June 21 at Brandywine Polo in Chester County. There will be 4 classes plus a champion class beginning at 10 a.m. and ending somewhere around 2 p.m. Entry fee is $75. But there are $1,000 in prizes per class. The show will be judged by Russell Jones, and there will be a polo match to follow, perhaps with some ceremonial stomping of the divots. Yearlings participating in the show will be eligible for $40,000 in incentives at the end of their 2-year-old and 3-year-old seasons. To enter your yearling, go to PABred.com or give the PHBA a call at 610-444-1050.
PA Bred, I think we've built a brand at this point.
It's excitement at every step.
Roses for Deborah just set a new track record.
On average, for the past decade, Pennsylvania paid over $28 million a year in Breeders' Awards, restricted races, and owner bonuses. Plus, PA Bred shine on the world's biggest stage. Just 3 states have bred more Breeders' Cup winners. Learn more at PABred.com.
Be a smarter better with First TV, the best horses. With thousands of exclusive morning workouts. All at your fingertips and delivered right into your inbox. Everything you need to be informed. Be smart. Bet smart. With First TV.
The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by First TV. Saturday isn't only Belmont Day, it's Met Mile Day, and the probable favorite for the Met Mile, Fierceness, is our First TV Work of the Week. Fierceness worked 4 furlongs over the Oklahoma training track in company with Tuscan Sky on Thursday. The pair completed the distance in 49.85. That's Fierceness. On the outside, Danny Wright aboard him with his feet on the dashboard. This is a new Fierceness. I did not see this Fierceness last year, but in 2025, he is so much better than he ever was, which is very, very scary. Trainer Todd Pletcher that said he completed the breeze easily and impressively and said he was pleased with his energy level, appetite, and condition.
Well, the Friday card is spectacular as well. Grade 1s up and down the card. Some very nice horses. And we start off with the Ogden Phipps, which is a race for older fillies and mares, going 1 mile and 1/8 on the dirt. And you're going to have a pretty, well, he's got Raging Sea at 5-2. I think that horse will be much lower than that. But I'm with you, Randy. I think the line maker in New York generally does an excellent job, but there's a couple here that just scratching my head a little bit. I mean, the only thing this horse has ever done wrong over the last year or so is to get beat by Torpedo Anna in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. She's an obvious horse. She's an obvious favorite. She should get a good trip because there's enough speed in here to keep her randomized honest. I think Dazzling Move will show some speed, and maybe Leslie's Rose will show some speed as well. But, this is one type of horse. I guess maybe the only thing, Randy, how do you explain that from a buyer standpoint that she dropped from a 96 in the Breeders' Cup Distaff to an 85 in the La Troyenne? Does that bother you?
No, yeah, it does bother me because it's a lot like Crudo. We were talking about his win in the Sir Barton on Preakness Day. This race expected to come up faster, although it was 4 horses together within a length and a half at the wire, which typically is a hallmark of a race that's not that fast. But 86 on the buyer scale was legitimate and not especially fast. But I don't know who to like otherwise. I mean, Randomized set an easy pace in there, and she was beaten by an 86. I think something unusual might wind up happening in here, like maybe Candied. She's coming off a good win in the Allaire DuPont at Pimlico.
I thought she'd be bigger odds. I'm surprised that she's as low as 3-1 on the morning line because I'm going to go with her. I like Raging Sea, but for all the reasons that you said, I'm going to try and go with Candied, and I don't think she'll be 3-1 whatsoever.
All right, we move along now to the Acorn, the 11th race on the Friday card for 3-year-old fillies. And here we go with Good Cheer. And at this point, from here and there, I've tried to beat her. And the thing that's so amazing about her, as you can hear me talk, I'm a big fan of the buyer speed figures, and Randy and the team do a great job. And you look at this horse, she's just not any faster than their competition. Matter of fact, this horse, Shred the Gnar, ran a 94 last time out, an allowance win at Churchill. That's Good Cheer has never run a 94 in her life. So if you want to be a wise guy, say, she's not that fast, she's going to get beat. Forget about it. I'm done trying to be fancy. She's just a machine, and she's a pleasure to watch, and she's going to go out there and make it 8 for 8.
I can't pick her. I want her to win. I want her to be 8 for 8. So I can't pick her because I've never picked her, and I have a horrible feeling if I pick her, she'll get beaten. So I will just root on the sidelines for Good Cheer because what she has done has been amazing. And I would love for her to, what is it, the Triple Tiara? Is that what we call it?
You don't have that anymore, but
I know, but they still have it, right? I'm going to go for that. So I'm rooting for Good Cheer, but I'm going to pick Shred the Gnar. So I just hope that puts Good Cheer in the winner's circle.
I think this race sets up for Good Cheer even more than any of her recent wins. Scottish Lassie's got the inside post, probably going to have to go a little bit. Lacara, nothing but speed. Shred the Gnar, wire to wire in her last 2 starts. Look Forward, always looks to be forward. So there's going to be a really lively pace in front of Good Cheer, and I think she'll probably mow them down.
12th race, the New York Stakes, mile and 3/16 on the grass. You have a 3-5 morning line favorite, and She Feels Pretty. Has won 3 straight races for Cherie DeVoe. Johnny Velasquez rides her. She's obviously the horse to beat. She's in great form right now, but I think she is beatable. I don't think she's that much better than everybody else in this field that you would want to take 3-5 on her. With so many other options in here. And I'm going to give Miguel Clement another shout out for Beliza, the 6 horse. This horse came in from Ireland, ran in the Sheepshead Bay. It's terribly dead slow pace, 52-3, 118-4, was 3rd early, overcame that and got up to win. And again, it's just like you said, Randy. I mean, if you have any kind of heart, you'll be rooting for this stable to have a good day. And I think that they are going to have a good day. And Beliza perhaps will be one of their winners.
Yeah, I don't think you can beat She Feels Pretty. I think she's the best American grass filly or mare. The distance is just fine. She's in great form. I don't like her 3-5. I couldn't bet her to win, but I can play exactas or trifectas. So I'll take She Feels Pretty over Beliza, and also give me another and flip-flop those horses behind the big favorite.
She is the horse to beat without question, but her worst race to date was at Saratoga over a turf course listed as good. So that's the one caveat. I will. She was second, but she just never got rolling. She just seemed like she was stuck that day in the Grade 2 Lake Placid as odds on. So she's without question the horse to beat. I don't know why I have a sneaky feeling that Forever After All, even though she just won going 1.5 miles, she's a little sharper. She's going to appreciate some give in the ground. And I have a sneaky feeling that she's going to outrun those 10-1 morning line odds.
The Friday 13th race is the Just a Game Stakes, 1 mile on the main track. This is a really good field,
man.
And you get usually, the European shippers that come over here are like, kind of bad Group 3 horses, maybe handicap horses. There's some serious European form in here. For instance, the horse that I'm going to pick is Choisua. Anybody have a pronunciation on that? Choisir. Okay. She won a Group 2 in Meydan and another one at Meydan before that. Comes in and ships in for Simon Crisford to win the Jenny Wiley, which is every year is a really, really good race. And she did it the right way to get 101 buyer in that. But I also like, that might officially be my pick, but I like a Lilac Rolla as well. Now, one thing about her, she's only a 4-year-old and she only has one start against older horses. But and he's also hadn't run since July, but going back to May, she ran second in the Irish 1,000 Guineas. That's as good as it gets over there. That's one of their classic races. So I give her a shot as well for Resolute Racing, John Stewart. And this race is going to be fun.
Oh, it's one of my favorite races on the 2 days. I love races like this because you get the top 4 finishers of the Jenny Wiley, and the 1-2 could have gone either way, really. And then you've got Belmont bringing in a horse who hasn't run in a year, making her first start in the United States. The horse you mentioned, a Lilac Rolla for John Stewart. But Mott's always fantastic off the bench, so you got to expect her to be clicking on all cylinders, and she has great European form. John Stewart also owns Excellent Truth, who might have been the best horse in the Jenny Wiley. It's tough to say. What a race.
It's a hell of a race. You have to like Choisir for Simon Crisford off of that. The fact she showed so much pace coming from Europe was amazing for me because I don't think anyone expected her to be on the lead. I believe that Excellent Truth was the best horse in that race and just got really hampered down on the rail. She gets Pratt back. We'll see what can happen with her. But there are so many ways to go in here. Special One just won the Honey Fox coming off a short layoff for Brendan Walsh. She's good enough to win this race on her best day. It's a hell of a race. And a Lilac Rolla. Porta Fortuna, if she was in here, what kind of odds would she be? Right?
I just hope for all these races Friday and Saturday, in a perfect world, we have beautiful sunshine at Saratoga and a firm turf and a fast track. Naira deserves that because, Bill, I agree. This is the second best racing card in America behind the Friday, Saturday of the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, absolutely.
The TDN Writers Room is also brought to you by West Point Thoroughbreds. We've already talked about the Manhattan, part of that fabulous Saturday undercard at Saratoga. Well, West Point will be represented in the Manhattan by both Carson's Run and Integration. Last summer, Carson's Run won the Saratoga Derby, obviously at Saratoga, also at the same 1 3/16 distance as the Manhattan, which, remember, was shortened from 1.25 miles last year. Carson's Run is trained by Miguel Clement, who's trying to carry on the legacy of his late father, Christophe, who won the Manhattan 3 times. Meanwhile, Integration reunites with Flavien Prat, who rode him to victory in the Red Smith Stakes last fall at Aqueduct. Integration is trained by another 3-time Manhattan winner, Shug McGahee.
All the thrills. Fraction of the bills. Experience the power of the partnership. Change your life, make new friends, and compete at the highest level of thoroughbred racing. West Point Thoroughbreds, the gold standard in racing partnerships. Visit westpointtb.com.
that's a wrap on the Belmont Stakes edition of the TDN Writers Room podcast presented by Keeneland. I want to thank Mike. What are you guys smiling at?
Lucy.
Oh, Lucy.
She's unconscious as usual.
Oh, did she didn't actually move or anything, right?
I think I just saw a paw move.
Yeah, I saw it.
She's dreaming.
All right. So anyways, we thank Lucy as well as my partners, Randy Moss and Zoe Cadman, and our Gainesway guest of the week, Jamie Osborne. A very informative and entertaining interview that was. Also, the producers and directors who work behind the scenes, Sue Finley, Katie Petruniak, Anthony LaRocca, and Aaliyah LaRocca. Everybody have a great Belmont Stakes Day, and we'll be back next week to wrap things up.
And I encourage everybody to look up Bad Bobby if you want to see some true Jamie Osborne. In fact, I think maybe we should just play it right at the end of here.
Monday morning, second lot. It's -2, but it's a bit more. I can feel spring coming. There's Toast in New York having a canter. The mornings are getting a bit lighter. And look, the winters are always quite long, but I think we've got the back of it broken now. Bobby has a less embarrassing coat on today. Thank you, Bob. Not quite that camp knitted thing that we had on her last week. Hathal, he will be entered Saturday and Monday. We'll hopefully find the right slot for Bobby! Bobby! Bobby, come here! Flipping heck. Bobby! Oh, shit. That Bobby! Oh, you stupid dog.